Hello, Ethel? Ethel. I'm having a hard time getting through to Mr. Green Jeans. Ethel. Oh. Welcome to Progressive Soup. We've been talking about technology while we've been off camera, and I guess I lost track of what era we were living in. But your acting background, Stephen. By the way, this is our second show with Stephen Snow, who was artistic director of the Palace Theater in Danbury. And your acting background, I know it's like 99% of actors, it's limited. But tell me some of the highlights of it, some of the things that kind of stick in your mind and stick in your heart.
I don't know that any of it sticks in my heart.
How about in your craw?
Well, maybe better said. Yeah, I mean, I grew up as a theater brat. You know, my mother was a thespian, and really a terrific actress herself. Much more accomplished than I could really ever hope to be. But so you know, I got towed around from doing summer stock here, and it was a great thing. You know, I mean, we would go to Pennsylvania, we would go to Maine, or wherever it was, and sort of watching this, you know, the sets be built and that sort of thing. So I don't know, long about somewhere in my early 20s, I decided that maybe, you know, I needed to get famous or something. I don't know. You know,
like so many people, and you know, you hear these stories about people that, you know, that make it big, and you don't realize that it's really, in fact, 1 in 100,000 that make any name for themselves, and the rest have fun, and then, you know, eventually go on to doing something else.
Yeah, exactly, and I think especially perhaps with, well, I shouldn't say especially, but with acting, you know, it's the kind of thing where if it's not something that you really, really want to do in your heart, then it goes back to that notion of what we were talking about the last show about if you really put your mind and your heart to it, if it's really what you want to do in life, then go for it.
Yeah.
You know, I would never tell anybody, you know, you can't do that. But, you know, for me, I found it wasn't really in my heart. It was more in my head. And and I knew, you know, I met Matt Dillon a couple of times later, many years later. But, you know, with him, for example, he was discovered while he was cutting school on the streets of New York City, and some producer or whatever found him, saw him, liked his look, and said, you know, would you come? At least this is from what I understand. Who knows if this is, you know, this is.
There might be some fiction involved in that narrative,
yeah,
but
I wouldn't want to.
It makes for a good narrative, though. It does make for a good narrative. It makes for a
great narrative. But as you said, you know, that happens 1 in a million, basically. So I did. I mean, I studied, you know, Meisner technique, and I studied modern dance, and I was actually in a dance class for a while with Brooke Shields way back when, you know. And, you know, I did things like audition for One Life to Live, and, you know, I dated a gal who used to play Carrie on One Life to Live. I think it was Carrie.
The obligatory soap operas.
The obligatory soap operas.
But, you know, dramas.
Right. I frankly found that I wasn't terribly good in auditions. So I had the desire to be, you know, recognized or something, but not the ability to leave the ego alone when I walked into an audition, I suppose. I actually did do an audition fairly recently. I went into New York and supposedly did pretty well, and I think that probably at this point in my life, I would be far less subconscious if I decided that I wanted to go back and try to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So my acting experience is really, you know, fairly limited. I did a few plays. I remember doing a play called Men Without Dates, which appropriately enough. And, you know, I forgot a bunch of lines, and that wasn't such a great experience. That one sticks in my craw.
I'll bet for most actors, the audition is the hardest part. If you can make it past that, if that's the hurdle, I'll bet if you can make it past that hurdle, then it's not easy, but it does raise up your ego level and makes you feel a little bit more comfortable with what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's true.
It's a hell of a hurdle, though.
It is, and I mean, I studied, you know, at a sort of commercial acting class. Wiest Baron was the name of the company, and I don't know if they even still do, you know, coaching or teaching or not. But I think that's a good point. I think if you're if you can get comfortable enough in an audition so that the person who is the casting agent or the director, who is ever sort of judging you, and you can get comfortable enough to get through that process, then you can relax a little bit. So it's definitely, at least it always was for me, the most uncomfortable aspect of doing it. Once you get the play or you get the show or whatever it is, then you can relax because you don't have to worry about, hopefully you don't have to worry that you're going to get fired or something.
Yeah. So. Was there any acting component in your travels through Europe, or was that out of the way when you did that?
That was really pretty much, well, I mean, I've traveled through Europe over the course of a number of years, so I never did any acting over in Europe, and I didn't stay really long enough to do any of acting over there. But so, eventually I sort of gave up on the acting thing. I mean, I had, done a number of different things in my former life, as it were.
Yeah.
But, I love what I'm doing now, and I really love it.
Does having been on that side of the audition, because I'm presuming that you probably have some input in who's going to be in or on the stage at the Palace Theater. You'll have maybe not any direct input, but there's always additional input that comes into making the principal decision. Does having been on the other side of that equation make it any easier, any harder for you?
It's a great question. It's a terrific question because the short answer is absolutely. And I will, I don't know that I'm ever going to direct a play over there. Who knows? Maybe down the line when I have a little more time on my hands, I will take something like that on. But in the meantime, I'm sort of the person who decides who's going to be on that stage. In other words, the acts that we're currently booking are, and we're developing a network of talent. But, for example, June 4th and 5th, when we have the sort of reintroduction, if you will, of the Palace Theater to the community, we have some amazing acts. And those are people that I knew from back when I was at the Center for New Media. There's new people, there's Christopher Robinson, Artie Tobia, twice winner of the Best of the Gold Coast Music Awards.
Sure.
All these great, talented people. And so, you go out and you search for terrific talent, and then you put it together. And there's an aspect of actually we'll be producing some of our own things. You, I believe, were at, when I did the so-called, we called it an extraordinary evening of dance over at the Center.
Yes.
That was a special night, I think. We had 18 short dance performances in the space of 2 hours.
Very eclectic.
Yeah, really great stuff. Everything from Middle Eastern to, we had former Pelabolis captain Rebecca Darling. We had Dolores Madsen of Riscalia right over here in Danbury. We had Kinetic Dance Company. We had Karan Basaran, who is an internationally known choreographer and dancer. And so that was a huge project to put together. It was a huge production. And that's actually something that I want to do in the relatively near future. It's such a big production to produce that I don't really have time to put it together right now. So there's going to be a little bit of mix. In other words, when we do a play at this point right now, I'm working again with Alicia Dempster from the Stage Repertory Company out of Danbury, and they're terrific. I can't say enough about them. And Alicia is directing the first show, my first time, which is just, it's a lot of fun. The show is, if you haven't read the play, which I'm sure you haven't,
You're right, I haven't.
It's just a blast. So you in a sense, you work with people who you can collaborate with, sort of farm it out, maybe not be the right word, but you collaborate with a number of different artistic people, and then, so the range is from, deciding who's going to perform, and then they come in and they perform, to producing a big show yourself, to inviting someone in to produce and direct their own show under the auspices, if you will, of the Palace Theater as we host it.
In my little lecture to the audience, sorry, if you're going to watch America's Greatest or America's Funniest or America's whatever, I don't even watch these reality shows that are on. Take that time and invest it more wisely. Go see some local talent and enjoy what you have locally that you can see live, that you can see some real good talent, people that are, I believe, from what I've seen, far superior to what you see on television?
You know, absolutely. It's just a completely different experience. You know, when you walk into a theater and you're there, it doesn't hardly matter what you're there to see. I mean, yes, the talent needs to be good, and it needs to be exciting and fun and smart and engaging and all of that
That's
stuff.
the operative word, fun.
Yes.
That's the operative word,
But,
right
you know,
there.
it's a community experience, and you walk into this place, and the excitement that you feel by walking into the theater and sitting down and seeing something live is like nothing else. You know, you can sit in your living room and watch. You know, I don't do the reality shows. I'm not a big fan of that sort of thing, but it sort of goes back to that earlier conversation about, you know, what do the arts, what is the value of arts? You know, what does the experience of going and enjoying a show bring into your life? And it's you know, it enriches the life of everybody involved.
Well, Patti Smith, who I've always liked as a performer, on her album Radio Ethiopia, played a little bit with words and noted that art is in the center of the word. Well, not exactly; it's on the perimeter, but it's within the word heart. And I guess another point about art is that within the word startle, and that's really perhaps what art does for us in our minds. It startles us, it makes us think, it opens us up to new ideas and a whole new dimension of thinking, and it just makes us broader people. The way we talked about language on the first show, about how language makes us more intelligent and more thinking in other cultures. I think art does the same thing, and hopefully, and you can tell us more about what's in store for us at the Palace Theater, and people will come out and they'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I mean, I think, you know, in a couple of words, you know, art can change lives, frankly. It really can. It's changed mine. And I've been fortunate enough to sort of grow up in that world, if you will. And again, this thing at the Palace is just so terrific, because I feel, and I know that Mr. De Silva does, that the community really needs it. So we're starting out on April 24th with Grayson Hugh. He's a two-time gold-winning, you know, singer-songwriter, recording artist. He's with MCA, RCA. He's fantastic. Opening for him is Lucy Bonilla. She's this sort of diminutive, you know, little powerhouse, and the voice that comes out of her is amazing. She's an astonishing blues musician. May 1st, I'm excited to have Funkasaurus Rex there. You know, this is a 6-horn band, keyboard, bass, drums, vocalist. And that's, you know, that's with Chris Parker and Joey Berkeley. I hope I have that right. And you know, these are guys who played with, you know, Bob Dylan and Bette Midler and Billy Joel, and they're just phenomenal. Chris plays with Will Lee, the bassist from the Letterman Band all the time, and another band called Tofi and the Pussycats. So we've got Funkasaurus Rex, and Kelly Middleman will be opening.
Clever name for a group.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. I mean, they're just phenomenal. And opening for them is Kelly Middleman, and she's an amazing vocalist. She's right out of Reading here. Then, of course, we've got the Connecticut Film Festival, the 4th through the 9th of May. May 15th, we do the play My First Time. And actually, May 22nd, we have a really terrific benefit called Laughs for Lisa. I don't have, you know, the web address on that or anything, but it's a benefit. And I'm sure if you Googled, you know, Laughs for Lisa, Connecticut or something, you'd come up with the right info. Or Steve, you know, people can email me at Stephen with a PH. At thepalacedanbury.com.
Thepalacedanbury.com is the site, and Stephen at thepalacedanbury.com. That's easy to remember.
Yeah, or info at the Palace will work too.
And again, if you can't think of it, you can find something akin to it that you can Google and find your way to it. That's the beauty of the internet.
Yeah, indeed. Speaking of technology. So that's the 22nd, and then June 4th and June 5th. I'm really excited about these, because the kind of thing which, again, you attended sometimes at the center, where I called these nights that I call the sort of full-blown evening of the arts, when we had the first annual Bethel Be-In for the Arts, and then October 3rd we did another full evening of multidisciplinary art. The 4th, you're going to walk into the Palace, and you've got Jive by 5 is going to be playing in the lobby. Jive by 5, they're an amazing band. We've got just a ridiculously good magician, Magic Dave, is going to be sort of working the crowd.
I think I saw him. I'm going to say maybe almost 20 years ago at First Night.
I don't know that he's.
Is he saying his like 60s perhaps? Or is he?
Oh no, he's younger than that.
Oh, okay, then maybe somebody different.
I mean, this is a fellow who can walk into a room with 400 people, and if he meets you, he will remember your name at the end.
Oh, okay.
He's astonishing. He levitates. He does mind reading, all that sort of thing. So he's going to be kind of milling about and getting the crowd going. And then, of course, so I think we're going to open the doors at 6:30. 8 o'clock, the show will go on. We'll have a short John Patrick Shanley play. We're going to have Otis Cook, who is another former Palabolos dancer, Momix. He does just an amazing short dance piece with us. We've got the poet La Bruja, who is a HBO Russell Simmons Def Jam poet.
Yep. Oh, yeah, La Bruja. I saw her at...
yes, you saw her. That's right.
Oh, fabulous. Oh, my God. She could stir the audience.
She's phenomenal.
And she jumped from one thing to the other, and it seems to flow so naturally with her that it seems to be totally impromptu. Although I'm sure she's very well rehearsed in advance.
She sure is. I mean, she's top notch.
And La Bruja means I think the witch.
La Bruja means the witch. And then we also have a couple of comedians. Now, this is, of course, basically it's sort of a similar program both nights, but we have different artists on each night. Yeah. So we'll have a short play both nights, we'll have dance both nights, we'll have comedy both nights. And speaking of comedians, we've got Joey DeVito. He is Comedy Central, of Comedy Central fame, if you will. He has been on the Craig Ferguson show. And then you saw Andrew Kennedy, I believe. Now, I'm a guy who likes comedy, but it's pretty rare that somebody makes me just bust a gut. Andrew Kennedy is one of the funniest comedians I've ever seen. He's going to be performing on the 5th, Joey DeVito on the 4th. And then the 4th we have for live music, which kind of ends the sort of crescendos the evening, if you will. Yeah. We've got Christopher Robin, who's played with, the Allman Brothers.
Winnie the Pooh.
Not that Christopher.
Oh, okay.
But he's just, if you like blues and guitar, he's just phenomenal. And then Artie Tobia, twice winner of the Best of the Gold Coast Music Awards, is going to be on the 5th. And you've seen Artie play.
Very, very interesting, very very ethereal in his playing. I mean, he's a bright guy. And you realize when you see good performances that art is really, in fact, like another language. It's like a whole other language. It speaks to you in the same way and reaches out to you in the same way that hearing a foreign language does. It sounds like a lot of the evenings are kind of a mixed bag where you get a little of this and a little of that and a little of the other.
That's the 4th and the 5th. Yeah. That's sort of, we want to provide a little bit of an artistic bouillabaisse for the community on those nights, because those are going to be very... I always found those to be very exceptional when you put those together.
What about the mailing list? We're getting a little direction from off stage, and okay. What do you mean by mailing list? You can speak up. Come on.
How do we get on it?
Oh, how do we get on the mailing list?
Ah. There we go.
Thank you, Jeff.
You can get on the mailing list. Our website should be up within a couple of weeks. That is thepalacedanbury.com. In the short term, people can feel free to email either info@thepalace. .com, or you can get me again at Stephen@thepalace.
Okay, Stephen@thepalace.com. And that's Stephen with a PH. And I guess we're going to have to get some of these to communicate from on stage to off stage, but
yeah, and of course, I'm sorry, but when we do get the website up and running, there'll be a link where you can just click on, join the email list.
Okay, we've got we don't have a call-in show here, but we do have a write and hold up the sign show that says we want to know what the condition of the palace is.
The condition of the palace is, I was talking earlier about the fact that in many years ago, the Palace was split into 3 theaters.
Yeah, you mentioned into a triplex.
Yes.
Into 3 rectangles.
Sort of, yeah. The balcony has been left intact. It currently needs renovation. There is the slightly more than 400-seat theater that is, as I say, ready for prime time, if you will. And renovation will continue in the other parts of the theater, sort of, behind the scenes as we go along.
400's not bad. I mean, you can get a
400.
It's a nice, intimate, large audience.
Yes, it's a beautiful space, and of course, the rest of the Palace is just beautiful. You walk in, and you've got all the old original molding and the paintings and the murals. Yeah. This beautiful, marble statue in the center there. And so the Palace is really in really good shape, and it's going to be even in better shape as we move forward. And
we were talking before the show about how there must be, every state has to have a number of Palace theaters, and even Connecticut, you mentioned Waterbury has a Palace theater, and probably if we did a little searching, we'd probably find one somewhere else in Connecticut. It's just a classic name for the classic concept of having a community theater that people can call their own.
Yes. Yeah, it is, and that really is the mission. You sort of just touched on it, that this is a place where we want people to feel that they can call it, that it is their place, it's their home. When you come into the Palace Theater, you're not a customer, you're not a client, you're a guest, and we want people to come in that way, and we want them to leave feeling the same, and we want the community to get involved. We'll have volunteer opportunities. Hopefully, eventually, we can
excellent.
Do a little bit. Add to the efforts. That we sort of put out to the community in the future as well.
So folks of all ages can come in and maybe for a comp ticket here or there can spend a few hours helping out and learning something and adding a little bit of something to it.
Absolutely, and we rent the Palace too. I mean, if somebody wants to go and have a private function there, a party, a wedding, a reception, anything like that, the Palace is also available for that kind of a function.
For our audience, as of a year ago, I am a justice of the peace and have not performed any weddings yet. So I would like very much to perform a large wedding in the Palace Theater.
There we go.
I'd love to do that.
Very good. Very good.
So now, again, back to your roots. What got you to where you are now? I mean,
hard work.
We've touched on a number of things that led to your acting experience and your and the New Center for Media and the Arts. And what other touchstones have you had along the way?
Good question. Well, mine has been somewhat of the road less traveled, I guess, if you will. So who's to say what leads to one to be where we are in any given moment, other than I sort of jokingly said hard work. But that is really the truth. I mean, I knew what I wanted to do. After a certain age in my life, once I got over the acting thing or whatever, didn't realize that wasn't quite for me. Once I really found what it is that I did want to do, I did exactly what I was recommending for people earlier, which is follow your dream.
Have fun.
Have fun, and just if you're determined to do it and you want to make it happen, it can happen. I mean, I really believe that people have some say in their lives. So,
I'm sure that all of us control not 100% of our lives, but certainly at least 80% of our lives. I mean, there are external forces at work in the universe, but I think the internal forces that we drive ourselves really, in fact, have a lot more to do with what we do than external forces, unless you let external forces control you.
Well, exactly. I mean, we all have to take responsibility for where we're at in our lives, right? At one point or another, because you can go through life sort of seeing the typical cliche of the glass half full or half empty, or you can be self-pitying, or you can say, there have been some challenges, but these challenges need to be overcome so I can get to the next level. And if you have determination, whatever it is you love, I don't, if it's rocket science, great. If it's music, terrific. You know, I wish I had known a little bit about, you know, if I only knew then, right? When I was in high school, you know, I thought, well, I'd love to be a guitarist, a guitar player.
Yeah.
But at that point, I didn't feel, I didn't have this perspective. I didn't realize that if I wanted to be a guitar player and wanted to be really, really terrific and be successful at it, all I needed to do was pick up that guitar and start playing. And so
I'm inclined to agree with you on that, that if anybody can be fairly good at just about anything, if they're willing to put the time in to get to that level. And you may not get to be, you know, the best or famous, but if you like doing something enough to spend a lot of time doing it, you'll be good at it.
Yes. Well, and I think that's a key, you know, for me, with just to use the acting thing as an example, the notion for me was always that I wanted to be a famous actor. Right. Well,
you're looking at the end result rather than the steps in between.
Exactly. It was not about love of the art at that point, or love of doing that particular art. It was about, you know, this end goal that really didn't matter. So I don't think it makes sense to go into the arts if all you really want to get at it is fame or anything else. I mean, there are you know, 1 million people, many more than that, who are involved. You know, there's community arts going on all the route through Connecticut and New York and every state in this country where people are doing it for the love of it. And when you're doing it for that reason, you know, anything is possible. So.
Again, back to when you were doing your going on calls and what do you call them, casting calls or things of that nature.
Auditions.
Do you think maybe the directors can tell? Do you think of the people that are actually on the other side watching you? 30 seconds? Thank you. We're going to wrap it up right there. We're coming down the home stretch. It's Progressive Soup. Stephen Snow, Artistic Director for the Palace Theater in Danbury. Thanks and good evening. That's not the show.